Between the Pages is made possible by Words and Pictures, located at 2610 Center Street Northeast in Calgary. For all your comic book, anime, toys, and more, stop by Words and Pictures. You'll be glad you did. This episode of Between the Pages is brought to you by Red Skull Comics. Offers the best selection of comics and trade paperbacks in Calgary, with a great selection of manga, games, magic cards, toys, statues, and a whole lot more. Want to be sure your collection is up to date? Then ask the friendly staff about their file services. Need more room for that growing collection? Then ask Red Skull about selling your back issue titles. 18 years and still going strong, Red Skull is the best little comic shop in Western Canada. Visit Red Skull Comics today at 720A Edmonton Trail Northeast in Calgary. Then find them on the web at www.redskull.com and like them on Facebook. Alchemy Apparel, the place to shop for pop culture, with a wide selection of t-shirts, hoodies, backpacks, wallets, belt buckles, bobbleheads, pop figures, and more. T-shirts of the Avengers, they got that. Star Wars bobbleheads, they got that too. Batman belt buckles, hats or wallets. You can find all your favorite TV, movie, video game, and comic book icons on everything in the store. Head down to Alchemy Apparel in Northland Village Mall and Sunridge Mall today. Be sure to follow Alchemy Apparel on Twitter and Facebook. And there we are. It's another fine Saturday. This is episode number 17 of Between the Pages. I'm your host, Richard Cleveland. As always, I'm here with you every Saturday afternoon. And with me, as always, the man who joins me, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who has undoubtedly and for sure proved that you cannot, in fact, get high from sniffing old newsprint. The only thing you get is a scabbed up nose. Mr. Jason Bishop. How are you today, buddy?
Pretty good, thank you. That was pretty good. I can give you that one. It wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. You were all like, "Oh, just wait, I'm going to get you," and you built it up and built it up. I was like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." I like the smell of old newsprint. If you get into a comic book and musty old comics. There's something about that that's like
the only thing you get. Really
I smell history.
I get a headache from sniffing old newsprint. I get a headache. It's not good. Now today,
well, but you just need to do it a little more often.
All right.
Same reaction to other things.
Do you know what's happening here today in our studio? We actually have somebody joining us today.
We do.
A creator, writer, man about town. This is Mr. David Thomas, the writer and creator of The Infinites. We're going to be talking to him a little bit later on.
Good to be here. Good to see you guys.
Thanks, David. Glad to have you. Was it hard to find us here in the basement?
Well, no, the basement was easy to find. It was downstairs from upstairs.
Okay. It was just coming across town that was hard.
Yeah, well, that was a bit more difficult.
All right. So, as always, we do what we do. We do the news first, and then we, of course, go into our little rant about whatever we're talking about. But this week's rant is going to be talking about The Infinites. We're going to talk to David about his creation. Then we're going to move into our review. And this week's review is really kind of weird because there's no DC this week.
No, because we went DC crazy last week, so I figured we'd give him a week off. Because it was like all DC books last week. And, as far as the news goes, everything's coming out of San Diego right now.
Isn't it, though?
We are on basically broadcasting right now on the Saturday of Comic-Con. And
this is
lots of news is
coming
out already, but really big announcements usually happen today. So kind of makes it hard to deliver the news. So, guys, don't go to any of the websites. Don't go anywhere else. Don't hit Newsarama. Don't hit CBR, although we love them. Wait for us for next week.
Yeah.
We're going to cover all of this stuff. We're going to talk about the announcements and the ramifications to you, and just what we think might be cool, what might be ill-advised.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of make a scorecard because, a lot of things get announced in San Diego, and then we never hear from them again. It's like crickets chirping in the background.
That's true.
It's like,
Look how long it took for Batman Earth 1 to come out.
Well, yeah, it was announced the same time as Superman Earth 1, and 3 years later, and the same year we're getting the sequel, and just in a couple of months we're going to get the sequel for Superman Earth 1.
Oh, there you go.
In fact, I think in less than a month.
So let's dig right into what we're going to talk about today in terms of news. We're just basically going to cover a little bit of the Eisner Awards.
Yeah, we're gonna hit the Eisners since we're probably gonna skip over that next week. And Mark Waid walked away with 3.
He did,
and so did A Tale of Sand.
Yes,
which we previewed on this very show.
Yes, A Tale of Sand, very good book.
Yeah.
Now I want to mention that Darwin Cook also got an Eisner Award for Best Short Story, called The Seventh.
I have a bone to pick with you, Darwin. I've been picking up the regular Stark books, and now these great little Parker short stories are going to be happening in the Martini editions. They're really huge, and I can't do it. Bring me another standard size hardcover with all these short stories in it somewhere down the road. I'd be very happy to have that match up with the rest of my books, because I want to read your story.
Now, last week was it last week or the week before, we were talking about kids' books.
We were, yes.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about kids' books, and that's what I want to bring up right now. Is best publication for kids ages 8 to 12 was called Snarked by Roger Langridge on the Kaboom title, or under the Kaboom banner. And as well as the best publication for young adults ages 12 to 17 was Anya's Ghost by Vera Broskal. I'm sure I'm messing that up, and that's First Second is the publisher of that. And moving right along, we've got Best Anthology from Dark Horse Presents.
I'm really happy to see that come back.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've been picking them up. I've been reading them. I'm a little behind on them right now, but I've got them all. They're in these really big, meaty books.
Right.
Granted, they're like $8 a pop, but they were the premier anthology back in the 80s, and as anthologies went out of favor, and I think they still are, really. It was a brave move on Dark Horse, because that was really the center of their publishing arm
right.
when they first started, was that anthology book. And out of the original Dark Horse Presents, we got Sin City, we got Next Men, we got Hellboy. I mean, The Mask.
That's true.
We got so many memorable properties out of that, so I'd like to see, I want to see more great things come out of Dark Horse Presents, because that's where some greatness begins.
Now here was
Concrete.
Here was an interesting one. Walt Simon's The Mighty Thor Artists Edition on IDW, and that won the best archival collection or project in comic books. I thought that was kind of an interesting one. And The Mighty Thor under the IDW banner. That's kind of strange, don't you think?
Well, yeah, it's a weird seeing Marvel
a Marvel
projects
property
over there, and
yeah.
we're going to see some DC ones over there too. These artist editions are these very large format books that are pretty much bringing you the raw pencils. They're not in color. It's really letting the artist shine from page for page, and you're almost seeing it on the scale that it was drawn. They really are beautiful books, and these are meant for the really ardent collector.
Okay.
I think somebody who really loves the medium, because they are expensive books. They're about $100 pop. So.
Okay, so how do we get this category? I understand artist and coloring. I understand those, but how do we get best lettering? Stan Sakai for Usagi Yojimbo from Dark Horse won the award for best lettering.
The guy who writes, draws, inks, and letters the book, and he wins for lettering. I think that's the more stranger one. I mean, we got lots of great letters in the business, like Chris Eliopoulos, who's won many, many times. I did think that was a very strange addition.
Yeah.
But at the same time, congratulations, Stan, for winning yet another Eisner Award.
That means you can spell.
That's right.
Now,
and Usagi's not easy to spell.
No. It's not easy to say, never mind spell. We also have what did I see here? Best Newcomer Award went to Tyler Crook, and I can hear you typing.
Wow, this is loud. Keyboard.
Yeah, very loud. See, this is why we don't have if we had the compressor on, you wouldn't hear that today.
Yeah.
So there's lots of other awards that were given out during the Eisners. If you're looking to find the full list, you can find it on pretty much any of the News, CBR, Newsarama, anything like that. You'll be able to find the full list of awards. So it's not too terribly bad. What else we got going on today? Let's get into our conversation with our guest here today.
Absolutely.
But first, we got to do this.
Hi, I'm John DiMaggio, the voice of Bender the Robot and Jake the Dog and Marcus Phoenix and a whole bunch of other characters. And you're watching Between the Pages.
Holy cow, man. You type loud. All right, so our guest today is Mr. David Thomas, writer, or should I say David William Daniel Thomas, as
David
it says.
William Daniel. Yeah.
As it says on the cover of the book.
Names.
4 first names.
And
I ran out of room for a last one.
Yeah, I think so.
he's the writer and creator of the book put out by Heroic Publishing called The Infinites. And the first issue came out in August of last year. And we're 4 issues in now.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a preview, actually, that was released April 5th of 2011. But what it was a full-length preview. And it previewed issue 1.
Right.
Basically in its entirety, with minor revisions between the preview and then the official launch in August of last year. Yeah, and 5, as you mentioned in the pre-show, should be out hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's been a little while coming, but it's worth the wait.
It was a long road to get this into publication too, wasn't it?
Well, it only took about 28 years.
That's a long time.
That's not so bad.
That's a long time.
It's kind of Neil Adams' time.
Neil's not getting any younger. Have you read Batman Odyssey? Not one of my favorites. Thanks, Neil. But that being said, now this book, we're 4 issues in now, and let me ask you, what was the inspiration for the story?
Well, the actual inspiration for the story stretches back, I think, right to the beginning of comic books, right, with the early issues of Superman. Because when, comics spun out of the pulps, they spun out of various other influences. But Superman, as he debuted, was certainly a mythical character. Probably most likely in the vein of Samson, given that, Siegel and Schuster were Jewish.
Right.
Heracles or Samson, take your pick. But as comics moved on, and especially tracking Superman into the 1950s, you had Superman, you also had the Spectre, you had a few other characters who went from being heroic or mythical characters to being directly messianic.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they never, ever, ever really dealt with that premise. Like, why is Superman, who in the Silver Age had these absolutely overwhelming powers, godlike powers, literally, why is he rescuing cats from trees and preventing bank robberies as opposed to solving the world's problems?
It's a good point.
DC's got what we would consider a pantheon of gods, but they rarely recognize them as such.
That's right.
Heck, the Avengers have a god on their thing, and nobody really treats him that way. So,
no, he's just another guy to go to the bar with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so the question is kind of hangs out there. And in Superman's case, it was kind of fobbed off as, I'm just here to help. Really? Well, then you're not really helping. Then later on, you get, I saw an interview with Jack Kirby, and he was talking about Galactus and the Silver Surfer. In Kirby's thinking, the Silver Surfer was Michael the Archangel. So it becomes, directly, we're looking at a direct allegory now. And Galactus was supposed to be God in short pants, I guess. But that became problematic in that they're the bad guys. So how do you deal with, God being the bad guy while you come up with a doohickey that, nullifies God?
Right.
That was, I don't think Jack liked the idea, but, that's what happened. Then later on you get characters like, more recently Magneto's kind of become an anti-messiah, if you will, or a warped, twisted, insane messiah. Warlock was a insane, failed messiah. Warlock's probably the most interesting example, I think. But comics have never really, at least to my satisfaction, confronted the issue of what if a superhero claimed to be the messiah head on. And that's what I do in The Infinites.
Okay.
So it's certainly a premise that goes back right to the beginning of the form, but I don't think it's ever, at least to my satisfaction, been handled quite in the right way.
Now, how did you take? You shopped obviously the story for The Infinites around a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And Heroic Publishing was the one who picked it up.
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis.
Now, Heroic Publishing. What else are you writing for them? Or are you just still writing the Infinites?
Just the Infinites as of now, but I've got several other ideas and several other projects in the works.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether they'll end up at Heroic or quite what the future holds, but Dennis has been really, really awesome. Dennis is truly, I think, the last of the great independent publishers. Heroic's been around since 1985, 86. It's one of the oldest. It spun out of the Hero Games company as their publishing arm. And Dennis has maintained it as a strictly independent company, which is incredible in this day and age, in this landscape. And what he's given me, which is awesome, is basically absolute creative freedom.
Okay.
You'll notice that that the issues are various page lengths, and that's something that was kind of a carryover from Alan Moore's work on From Hell.
Okay.
Which I thought was a beautifully done series.
Yeah.
And one of the most interesting things about it was the fact that the page count varied. Because the page count was whatever that part of the story required. And I think that's very, very interesting. And it's great to have that level of artistic and creative freedom. So in the Infinites, you'll notice that the page count varies a little bit. By issue 8, we're now looking at being perhaps even triple-sized.
Okay.
So
wow.
it could be up to
meaty books, guys.
Could be up to 72 pages.
Wow. That's a graphic novel.
Yeah. And 9 will be probably double-sized, maybe a bit longer to conclude the art, because I didn't want to artificially break up those particular parts of the story, and I think they need to be that long to tell the story adequately.
All right, that's cool. Now, I wanted to ask you, speaking of the story, going through the book, and I've got the first issue right here.
Notice the beautiful Derek Gross cover.
That's
the man who did the Vampire Lestat and Necroscope, and a good friend of mine.
Oh yeah, I just came across those old Necroscope issues in my collection recently.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, I noticed in the book, and as I was reading it, and I think you had the same observation, that there's a lot of narration to the story as opposed to dialogue from the characters. What was the decision there? Like, how did you decide to make it more of a narrative story?
I wanted to keep the characters' inner monologue silent.
Okay.
And in this first arc, you'll see later on, but I want to question the role of the narrator. There's a reliable narrator and there's an unreliable narrator in the story.
Right.
And so that's why I started with that degree. And a lot of dialogue can become very, very hackneyed. You can end up with the kind of stilted delivery that you had for years and years in the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're feared and hunted by mankind, blah 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 blah. Well, why don't you think it? Or put it in a narrative caption instead of spouting this all the time. I think that too much dialogue can become clumsy. I trained as a screenwriter, and so I want to use dialogue effectively in ways other than just to narrate a story. I wanted to reveal character. I wanted to progress the plot. I wanted to advance the action. And I think in this case, a narrative was the best possible way to convey that, in also the least space possible, because you'll notice that the Infinites is told in a Bronze Age, very compressed storytelling style.
I did notice that, yeah.
In one issue, I probably cover more ground than 4 or 5 issues in most other books.
Right.
And that's I think a great function of narrative, is to compress ideas.
Okay.
To tell them as briefly as possible.
Yeah, and I think this,
unlike my answers,
I think this decompression experiment that's been going on in comics hopefully is ending soon.
Well,
I've noticed big changes in, at least on DC's side of things, and in small parts in Marvel's as well, where they're just trying to tell the story in the pace that feels natural for the story,
right?
Rather than stretching something out to 5-6 issues. Brian Michael Bendis. God, I love you as a writer, man, but Jesus, sometimes it takes you forever.
More
to
than
tell
I
a
can
story.
say. Well, I think probably one of the great examples of that, and he was former to his work in comic books a brilliant writer, was Joe Straczynski. His work on Babylon 5 is absolutely impeccable.
Right.
It's perhaps the best writing I've seen on television.
And one of the few shows that has the same writer for every episode for at least the first 4 seasons.
It was remarkable. It was just incredible work. And then he got to comic books, and I remember, well, I thought Spider-Man was a write-off, but I remember his work, particularly on Supreme Power, where it was like 22 issues and the team hadn't gotten together. It's like, oh my God, how much longer is this going to take? And it was blah, 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 issue after issue after issue. You know, and quite frankly, another idea that comes up in the Infinites is I don't really think you need an origin story all the time. The origin story screwed Wolverine, for one. It was the worst possible idea to give that character an origin.
The mystique is part of what really drives that
Yeah,
character.
absolutely.
I agree.
And when you start taking that away, he becomes less interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my case, at least, I think again, harkening back to Kirby, I think overall I'm much more interested in ideas and possibilities
Okay.
than a concrete execution of a storyline. So I leave spaces, and one of the spaces I've left is the actual origin of the team, and maybe I'll fill it in later.
Right.
I hint at it in various points, but
That I noticed in the first 4 issues. You do hint at it a little bit,
yeah.
but there's not enough there to grab any meat off the bone, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that's what I really liked about Wolverine back in the day, is they'd always give you these little nuggets.
Yeah.
And that was usually enough to satisfy me, and it raises questions. It makes you think about the character, and okay, well,
Well, it's
what
enough
was
to
this?
get
What was that?
it engages imagination,
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and I think that's become unusual in today's market, and I don't know why everything has to be so cut and dried and nailed down and simplified. And I think that a lot of the writers, and maybe especially the editors, assume that the fans are far more stupid than they are. I think that they should give them more credit and actually let their imaginations work.
Well, you could certainly say that with the summer movie releases.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Almost every year we're getting this bubblegum stuff, and sometimes it's you come out just like, wow, did they think I'm an idiot?
I can
almost
agree
play
with
down to
that. I think that there's too much that hits the cutting room floor, as it were. And that's the same with comics. I mean, comics are a visual medium, much like movies are, but they're also an imaginative medium. I mean, we can sit there if we read the panel and not really pay attention to what's going on in the panel. We can kind of set up that story for ourselves. And unfortunately, editors and chief executive officers, not naming any names, Dan DiDio, seem to have that problem of where they go, okay, no, let's back this off a little bit and give them a much brighter look and a much flared page, and then we'll move the story along that way. We'll fill it in with the dialogue, which is kind of like the old Marvel way of doing things.
Yeah, which is for some people it works, some people doesn't. You leave your room artists to breathe, and I think when Stanley was working in that, I'd say probably 75% of those stories were Kirby or Romita, and
Right.
25 was actual Stan. But you've got DC and Marvel owned by corporations now. They're out to protect IPs,
Right.
more than anything else.
Sure they are.
and keep their books on the stands, and so people go to see their movies and buy their toys and whatnot. And it really feels like the comics are secondary to everything else. It's just there to maintain the IP.
Right. Now, I've got an image here that you're actually wearing on your T-shirt today.
Ah, yes.
Let's pull that up.
The Infinites T-shirt image,
The Infinites T-shirt
beautifully
image.
done by Chris Hanchy and John Anderson.
Now, Christopher Henchy does the artwork in the book too, does he not?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
And John is the inker and colorist.
Okay. Now, how did you get hooked up with this team? Was that through the publisher, or was that
No,
handpicked?
It was on my own. The saga of the Infinites, or this current iteration of the Infinites, goes way, way, way back.
Okay.
To, at the very least, to about 2003 or earlier, when I was working with a brilliantly talented artist, a guy named Kelly Godine, who should, by all rights, be the dominant artist in the industry, but he was paid far, far, far too much money by 3DO and other computer game companies to go over there and work for them.
Okay.
But just a spectacular artist. And Kelly and I had worked on the book together for several years. And in 2005, at the San Diego Comic-Con, it was ready. It was in that iteration, it was ready. And we shopped it around and got great buzz from everyone. There were a few exceptions, guys like Mike Carlin, who's an awesome guy, but he just didn't really see it.
Right.
And that's a whole other story. I cover that in the Infinite Possibilities column of issue 1.
Yes, you do actually.
Yeah, I do remember reading it.
Yeah. Or and Marvel said, "Wow, this is a great story. This is a great idea. Can you do it with Wolverine?" It's like, yeah, no, I think I'll pass on Wolverine.
Yeah, that's truth.
Yeah. So, but eventually we ran into Rob Liefeld.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
here it comes.
Yeah.
Here it comes. I was going to ask, but now I don't have to. He does talk about this again in the column.
But Rob, Rob's a polarizing figure, but he loved it.
Okay.
He said, in his 20 years in the business, it's the best submission he's ever seen, period. And he was right. And he said, don't talk to anyone else. It's sold. It's done. Right here.
Right.
I want it. I want to publish it through Awesome or Arcade, whatever the iteration was at the time. And he said, don't go anywhere else. I said, oh, okay. And that was pretty sweet. But unfortunately, after the con, there was no follow-up, and Kelly moved on. He just couldn't wait any longer.
Right.
And the whole project kind of fell apart for a couple of years, and I'd worked with various other artists, and I won't get into that. But about 2008, I put an ad in Digital Webbing, and out of the 180 some odd artists who responded, of varying abilities and various qualities, I chose Chris. And
Okay.
I think I'm pretty happy that I did. I think he's done a pretty darn solid job on the series. And then originally Matt Webb was going to be the inker and colorist, but Matt couldn't do it. And so Matt recommended John Anderson, and I'm very, very, very pleased that he did. I think they're a spectacular team. They do great things on the book. That's some of the that was the Harrow, who's the villain of the piece. That was the character sketch for him.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you, you kind of brought back an old tradition in comic books with your back page. I want to call it, it's almost like a Stan soapbox.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the basis for it.
And
I love Stan.
tell us a little bit about how you decided to do that with this book.
Just the fact that, once again, Dennis gave me complete creative freedom.
Right.
And I'm always interested in the nuts and bolts of the industry. How do people do things? How do writers write? How do artists draw? Like getting into the technical end of things. And I thought, well, this is a great possibility or a great opportunity to explore this.
Right.
To explore the process of writing, to explore the ideas behind it, the themes, structure, that kind of thing. I love that kind of thing. And it's just kind of evolved into its own thing. The first column was pretty long.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It was a bit longer than Stan's soapbox. It was about 9 pages.
one-
Yeah, that was a long one, that one.
Yeah.
But you talk about like how some of these characters have been in your head since the old Champions roleplay game.
Yeah, absolutely. The initial characters, many of who you see in the team, were created back in 1981, 1982, by myself, and often with the help of my good pal, Dr. Peter J. Rocha of the University of Grant MacEwan. Now I guess it's a university up in Edmonton, Grant MacEwan University.
Wow.
Spectacular teacher. Go take courses from him. And some of them changed fairly radically over time, but a few of them, the core remained absolutely the same, and especially Vigil, because back then, having a superhero who has what I called a psycho-adaptive physiology. So you are what you think you are.
Right.
What if you think you're God?
Good point.
What does that do? If you think that you're the Messiah, if you think you're the one who was sent to redeem and save mankind, and your physiology allows for that. It's a
lot of thought-provoking questions there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is interesting, being able to talk to the writer of a book such as The Infinites and really get to the meat of the thought process of how it came together.
Yeah.
And really, it's kind of cool. The one thing, just before we wrap it up, the one thing I want to say is I really enjoyed what you did in the first issue with the dedication to your mother for her after her passing.
Yeah, she passed away 2 weeks before it was published.
And I'm just going to quickly show that. I mean, it's nothing. I've never seen this before in comics. And I thought that was a really nice touch to open the book on. Nice dedication, and I got to say, we wish you all the success with this story, man.
Thank you.
And where can people find the book? In most shops around the country?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh.
You can find it through Heroic Publishing, www.heroicpub.com, or through Words and Pictures.
Absolutely. We have it over at Words and Pictures over at 2610 Center Street Northeast. So hit us up over there. We do have copies there, and we're going to arrange for a store signing for you at some point.
Absolutely. So. And there's fabulous art that
we do have.
We've got some art, and
we're
going to give away all 4 of these books here very soon.
As
let me
prints.
go to
This
your camera
lovely Aviatrix poster done by Ethan Peacock.
That's gorgeous, man.
Yeah, Ethan does amazing work. And curious Ethan story, again, somehow relating to Rob Liefeld. I don't know how all this stuff ties into Rob Liefeld.
There's actually a really good column in one of his books about that. So.
But Ethan is actually, this might seem litigious, but Ethan, many, many years ago when he was a young kid, sent in a character sketch to Marvel of a guy who he thought was really cool, who he wanted in the X-Men. And this guy had like a starburst over one eye, and he had a metal arm. And he said, oh, well, because he loved Colossus, he loved Longshot, he wanted to combine them all into one character. And this was his character, and he sent it into Marvel. And, wheels turned and things ground away. And a while later, a guy named Cable showed up.
I was going to say.
Yeah, so I think that could be the secret origin of Cable. That's a poster by John Anderson, and that might well be the cover of issue 8, possibly.
Issue 8, wow.
It'll have to be somewhat modified from kind of poster image to a comic book image, but
there you go.
They all did beautiful work.
They did. Those are gorgeous, man. We should probably get you to sign a couple of them before you leave today, so we can give them away with the books.
I would be happy.
We have issues 1 through 4 here in the studio that we will give away. And how should we do that? We'll make a quick contest this weekend.
Yeah. If you guys are watching the show and you want to read more about this Infinite stuff, start entering now. Go over to our Facebook page.
Yep.
Say, I want the Infinites.
Yep, that's all you got to say is, I want the Infinites, and we'll pick one name.
We'll randomly pick out from one of you guys who say, I want the Infinites.
And we'll send you a signed poster or 2. And all 4 issues that are out now. And look for issue number 5, which is coming very, very soon.
And Words and Pictures.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yeah. And if you can't get it there, just let us know here at Naked Ape, and we'll try and get you a copy. So there we go. We've got a few people to thank. Thank you again, David, for you going to stick around for the rest of the show?
Absolutely, I'll be here.
Cool.
There's iced tea to be drunk.
There is. There's more in the fridge, too. We've got quite a few people we have to thank that we didn't thank prior to doing this little segment, but we will start to get on that now.
Yeah, because we have our sponsors who help us out and keep us on the air. So who do you want to start with?
Well, we'll start with Alchemy Apparel. How about that? We'll start with Alchemy Apparel. Alchemy Apparel is located at Sunridge Mall and Northland Village Mall here in Calgary. They have all of your geek wear needs, whether it be wallets, belt buckles, hats, T-shirts, backpacks, you name it, they've got it. They can be found at Alchemy Apparel on Facebook. Go and like them. Anything that you want geek wear, they've got it pretty much. Check them out right here in Calgary when you're in the city. And we also got to thank Red Skull Comics, who go by the title of the best little comic shop in Western Canada, and they are a very, very small comic shop. But they do have a great line of books, both current and back issues. They have file services and all kinds of stuff. So by all means, go down and check them out there at 720A Edmonton Trail Northeast here in Calgary. You can also find them on the web at redskull.com. And lastly, before we get into doing our review, which is brought to us by your people,
that's right.
I will quickly mention Gorilla Printing. Gorilla Printing supplies Naked Ape Productions. They are the official printer of Naked Ape Productions, and they give us all the wonderful little things that we have to give away to you.
And you'll find that you should start seeing these in your
local
comic book shops. And they got the QR codes to take you to the website. We got the poster in the background there. And if you do not see our paraphernalia in your local comic book store, tell us.
Yeah, let us know.
And we will send them a package of this stuff.
You bet. And so we want to thank them for all that they do. And if you're looking for printing services, contact them at gorillaprinting.ca. They cover everything from business cards right up to trade show banners, you name it, they've got it. And they can ship anywhere in Canada at very, very reasonable cost and very fast turnaround. So check them out, gorillaprinting.ca. So now let's get into our review of the week. And man, oh man, I am so unthrilled with this week's picks of the week. But
I don't think you're a bird lover.
Maybe not. But this week's review is brought to us by
Words Pictures, 2610 Center Street Northeast, right here in Calgary, Alberta. Phone us at 403-282-8870. You'll hear my glorious voice over the phone, and I'll help you out with anything you need. We have back issues, file services, toys, games, you name it. We got it. If we don't, we'll try our hardest to get it for you. So check us out.
So today's first book that we're going to look at is The Crow, Death and Rebirth. This is Chapter 1, Death is My Dojo. This is brought to us by James O'Barr, who created The Crow, written by John Shirley, and art by Kevin Colden.
And this is coming through us from IDW. Lovely cover.
Yeah, lovely cover. That's about all I can say good about it.
The stuff in between, sadly, I mean, if you've seen a Crow movie, any episode of the television series, which wasn't that good, pardon me, this is really kind of derivative, honestly. This is the same old hackneyed idea, some young lovers, tragic death, resurrected as a crow. It's getting old. I mean, it's been off the shelf for a while, but really nothing's touched the heart and pathos of the original graphic novel that came out by James O'Barr.
I agree with you 100%.
And every time we retell the story, it just seems to get more and more watered down, and it just, how many more tragedies? Like, God, there must be 20 of these guys running around by now.
You know, I like to say it's the same pile, just a different dog.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what this sudden death, tragic death of this young lover, and why they have this sudden fascination for makeup.
You got me, man.
It's a bizarre idea. It worked in the original graphic novel, and I think it was never intended to be more than that one character. And this was a case of the movies wanting to continue on, and Brandon Lee passing on that set.
Yeah,
and I think it's a case of the movie changed the comic.
That could be.
And it hasn't worked since.
For me, I thought that nothing really stood up in this book for me. Like the story didn't stand up because it's the same story we've either seen on the silver screen or read a million times. The artwork to me was very sketchy, and I mean that in the pencil to paper sense, not like, he's sketchy.
Yeah. It almost feels like this is kind of like, let's just push it out. At least I'm getting paid.
Yeah. I just don't think this title was ready to come back out on the shelf.
No, first what
you need an original story.
What seems like a big property for IDW to grab. This is certainly a lackluster start for it.
Right.
It makes me a little worried about their launch on Dread that's coming up. I'm really hoping we get something good out of that. I know when DC handled it, it was fine, but then again, Judge Dredd's a tough sell in North America. But guys, hopefully they step it up with that one, because this wasn't working.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Second on our list of books to do this week is, I got to do this because this will sound really cool. Space Punisher. From Marvel Comics, we have Space Punisher, brought to us by Frank Thierry and Mark Texeira.
This is the first of a 4-issue limited series, and it's definitely an out of continuity story, folks. This is what would be an Elseworlds, what if kind of thing. It is an imaginary tale, whatever term you want to use.
Yeah,
and it's Punisher going after the more cosmic iteration of gangsters, and
isn't that the truth?
Yeah, it's really kind of fun. Like it's a silly idea, and it kind of comes off overly bombastic, and it's just fun kind of guilty pleasure stuff. You get see Thanos sitting in a bar, and
it kind of reminds me of the cantina scene from Star Wars.
yeah,
You know, where you have all these different creatures sitting in the bar,
And
and there's Thanos sitting there having a drink.
yeah. Well, and you actually go through it, and I was picking them out. I'm like, okay, that's from this comic book,
Yeah.
and that's from this comic book, and hey, that's from Star Wars. Wait a minute. So he does sneak in a few things here and there that are not Marvel properties, but it was definitely a fun read. Guilty pleasure, nothing more than that. I also think the Mark Texiera artwork's too good for the story.
You know, I spoke to him at the Calgary Expo when he was here, and he was so jazzed about doing this 4-issue limited series that, I mean, he put spoilers out in the interview left, right, and center. And if you haven't seen that interview, go back to our coverage. I'm not sure which one we put it in, but go back to our coverage of the Calgary Comic Expo and just run through them till you find the Mark
Yeah, and I think
Texiera.
it's one of the last two.
Right.
So
They've even got a nihilist sitting in the bar.
yeah,
And Boba
Nihilus
Fett.
was in there. Boba Fett, that was the one I spotted in there.
Yeah,
with Boba
I'm
Fett.
I'm just gonna switch my camera here, and as you can see, there's a nihilist.
Star in there.
Yeah.
And there's your Thanos.
So, you know, I love Mark's
that
work.
robot's Chip.
Yeah.
So they've really taken a lot of the old stuff and done it in a strange sci-fi atmosphere.
They did, and you know, I'm a huge Mark Texiera fan. I mean, the guy's funny as hell for starters, and secondly, he's one of those individuals that can pretty much draw anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, I fell in love with his artwork as soon as I saw Vampirella sitting back there. And that's a Mark Texiera print, by the way. Just wanted to let you know. Yeah, I kind of thought that the artwork stood up very well in the story. And again, the story's a guilty pleasure. That's really all it is. And we all need guilty pleasure in our comic books once in a while.
Yeah.
And then
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No. What do you think about that? Do you like guilty pleasure in your comic
No,
books?
I think that the guiltier, the more pleasurable.
More guilty, the more pleasure. All right. I like that. So lastly, we have from Valiant #1 is Bloodshot, and this is brought to us by a whole host of people, none of which I can pronounce. Yeah, there we go. Let me give it to you. I'll give it to you
I
here.
don't know if I'll be any better with this, but okay, we got Dwayne Straczynski, who's fresh off over Marvel and DC. He's writing Birds of Prey over at DC, I do believe. And Manuel Garcia doing the artwork, Arturo Lozzi, who I'm not so familiar with, and Stefano Guadiano. I apologize if I blew that one up, but Dwayne Straczynski's, and I quite like the book, and maybe it's because I have a fondness in my memory for some of the older Valiant titles, and it was a neat idea of this programmable soldier.
Doesn't that kind of remind you, though, of what was the Jean-Luc Van Damme?
Universal Soldier.
Universal Soldier. Doesn't it kind of remind you of that? You get all shot to hell. And
I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, I guess
RoboCop,
so.
Or Deathlock.
Or RoboCop, yeah, or
Yeah,
Deathlock.
I mean, it's. I don't think there's anything new in the idea per se, but he's got these memories of his own family and stuff, and they make you question whether it's real or not.
Right.
You know, he goes back and, oh no, well you had a different family last time, and you're gonna have another one then time after that. So they give him these memories. Makes you wonder, you know, why wouldn't you just keep reprogramming him and use him as a soldier? Why would you bother giving him this family idea and just make him the programmable soldier that you want? So there's some neat ideas coming in here, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of them fleshed out.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good, solid launch, again, for Valiant. I certainly liked it better than the Harbinger launch.
See, this is where you and I disagree. The story is nothing new to me. I've read this story a million times.
Yeah.
I've seen it in film a million times, and it was nothing new to me. So I decided that, okay, let's go back and look through it and look at the artwork. The artwork I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was well executed. I thought the colors were vibrant. It fits the style of the book. But again, it's a story I've read a million times.
Well, I mean, this is
so
the
it kind of
character-
left me flat.
Yeah, this character didn't have the most depth out of the Valiant line. I think they were trying to get their iteration of Punisher out there. And they're going to use these as platforms to launch some of their other books. If you like that sort of thing, if you like that Punisher type of story, that's kind of what this book is. It's kind of that modern warfare Punisher kind of story, that super soldier kind of story. And I suspect we're going to see some leading into the Rye character as well,
Right.
and they're going to set up other concepts over there, starting with Bloodshot. Out of the 4 they're launching, I think it's probably going to be the one that is more guilty pleasure than any kind of real depth. But
Okay.
But
Well,
then again, I mean, Straczynski, he's done some good stuff. I quite liked his follow-up stuff on Immortal Iron Fist as well, and there's a character that's really difficult to write. So,
right. Yeah, well, Iron Fist is a very complex and
yeah.
strange character to begin
And
with.
most of the time, I find, like, outside of the Power Man Iron Fist stuff, he just didn't work, and until that run.
Well, that kind of wraps up our comic review this week. It was kind of short and sweet. That's all 3 books, man.
Yeah, well,
got through 'em
we
fast
both
this
through
week.
them fast. It's much easier to talk about them when you don't like them, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's much harder to talk about them when we really are jazzed about them, and we've had that in a few past episodes. So now, before we move on, we're going to tell you what's on the shelf here real quick.
Yeah, just let me grab my iPad.
And while you're doing that, we got some people to say some words.
You're watching Between the Pages.
So 2 lovely ladies from the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo. Yes, you are watching Between the Pages. And we do this every Saturday here on the NakedApeProd.com network. And we are launching a bunch of new shows coming in September. I want to tell you quickly about those before we move to tell you what's on the shelf. I'll tell you how you can find us. You can find us on Twitter at NakedApeProd. So if you feel like adding us to your tweeting, by all means, go ahead. You can also find us on Facebook. Facebook one's not working. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it goes. There's Facebook. Now, there should be a U in Productions, and I forgot to put it in. I still haven't fixed that lower third. I got to get around to that. And, of course, you can find us each and every week right here on the NakedApeProd.com network. If you are not able to be with us during the live show, you can always check us out back here on our website within a day or two and catch, the VOD or the video on demand version of the show. Watch it after it airs. What else can I tell you about? If you need to get in touch with us or wish to get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook, of course, as I mentioned, and just send us a little note. Like us on Facebook. We are starting a brand new contest. Once we reach 100 likes on Facebook, we're going to start a brand new contest for all of the free Comic Book Day books. There's over 25 titles, including the much sought-after hardcover of Mouse Guard, and you will get a very limited edition canvas bag for all these books that you can take to your next convention and fill up and stuff and do all kinds of nice things. You can also email us at betweenthepages@nakedapeprod.com. And we'll be happy to respond to you there and tweet about us and do all those nice things, and we appreciate that. If you are so inclined to skip your coffee one day and help us out to make sure that we get this content out to you every week, and I hate to do this, but I'm going to beg. We have a donate button on the website. You can hit there and donate whatever you can. The $2 that you didn't spend on the Tim Hortons coffee, or the $5 that you didn't spend on the Starbucks coffee.
Support the Ape Nation.
Support the Ape Nation. And if you don't feel like doing that, we have all kinds of ads there. The Google ad, you can click on one of those. That sends us a couple of coins every time you do that. Or you can go to our Cafe Press store and find some goodies in there that you might like. T-shirts, hoodies, iPad covers, iPhone covers, mouse pads, coffee cups, all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. And now let's move on to what's coming on Wednesday.
Okay, so coming out this week, this is one of those light weeks, right? So, but we do have a few standouts this week. We got Avengers versus X-Men #8, with its plethora of variants coming along with that. And that story's starting to shape up. So, the first 5 actually kind of dragged out. They could have probably covered those in a couple issues, but #6 came out, and we reviewed that on the show, #6, and it was better than the first 5 combined. So
you bet.
So it's really starting to shape up. What do we got else? We got coming here. Wow, I missed that. The Batman Earth 1 Special Preview Edition, which is free for you guys if you didn't pick up the book last week. Good one, DC.
Way to go.
Before the Watchmen, Silk Spectre #2, so that's continuing on. We have the launch of the new Captain Marvel book over at Marvel, which really is just Miss Marvel in a less appealing outfit. Moving on.
This is true.
I mean, it still could be a good book. If you want to see her first appearance in the new outfit, that was in the just last issue of Avenging Spider-Man #9, I do believe. Let's see what else we got coming up. New Justice League #11, so that's always a big release for the week. Jennifer Blood Annual #1. And some indie stuff. Prophecy #2, Rachel Rising #9, Saga #5 from
Saga
our
#5. I can't wait.
good friend Fiona, and go check that out. Star Trek Doctor Who Simulation Squared #3, which we've reviewed #1 and
Right.
are greatly enjoying thus far. And yeah, that's kind of covers it. We got Exo Man of War #3 also coming out from Valiant.
Very
I
cool.
think that covers it. And I saw something in here where I think next week we'll revive the show and tell segment
Ooh.
because it's been a while.
Since we showed you and told you about it.
Yeah, so there's
Not like we don't cover comics every week.
yeah, but that's where we get to show you some interesting products
Okay.
and things like that. If you haven't checked it out, go check some of our earlier show and tell segments on our early review. We did Lock and Key, the card
Right.
game.
We did.
And
What else?
we
talked about the Ice Cube trays.
the Ice Cube trays. We did the preview of the now Eisner award-winning Jim Henson Tale of
Yes,
Sand.
that's right.
So called it. And so we got another one for you next week. So
All right.
which
very
I think
cool.
is weird and unusual. So I'll bring it in and show you guys.
We want to thank our guest today, Mr. David Thomas.
Pleasure being here, guys.
Oh, wait a second. There we go. That's better.
Oh, there I am.
There you go.
Oh, there I am.
Yeah,
Look
we
at
want
me.
to thank you for coming by today, man. That was
Oh,
great.
well, thank you.
Talking
It was
about
a
your
delight.
books.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to come back again.
Absolutely.
There's the
Now
door.
that I know where you live.
And 2 weeks, guys. 2 weeks. We got Infinite's #5.
Yes.
coming out.
I hope it'll at least hopefully be out on PDF by then. It might take
Okay.
a little bit longer to publish it, but again,
Okay.
words
So-
and pictures.
You can you will be able to find the book over at Words and Pictures, and you can find it over at Heroic Publishing as well.
Heroic
on our
Publishing.
website.
www.heroicpub.com.
HeroicPub.com. Now, you've got some little cards as well that you dropped off at his store.
Absolutely.
And I don't know where mine is. I know I've got one here somewhere.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Well, you can come in. We've got some posters. We got the books, obviously, and
We're going to get David to sign up some of these.
We got the cards in there. On the flip side, you got a whole year's worth of calendar on there.
That's right.
What's left of the year, and so it's artful and useful.
There you go. And as always, I want to thank my co-host for joining me each and every week, Mr. Jason Bishop. Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely, and thank you.
It's always a pleasure having you here, man.
Yeah,
You know.
it's my Saturday.
You're the wealth of knowledge that I am not.
Yeah, okay. I am the brains and the beauty of the show.
And as always, hey man, we made it under an hour this week.
Oh, short one this week.
Short one this week. As always, I want to thank those people who joined us in the chat room or joined us. What behind me?
You didn't run the commercial.
Oh yeah. Let me do that real quick. Before I thank everybody,
let's all go to the lobby.
let's all go to the lobby. You bet.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
So we know that it's coming soon. Popcorn Lobby, new show here from Naked Ape Productions, which will be launching in September with myself and Jason hosting the show. We're going to be talking about movies. We're not going to be reviewing movies, but we're going to be talking about movies. And we've got a special segment each and every show called File 13. I'm not going to tell you any more about that. So there's lots of great things on the way. We also have a new show that'll be launching right around the same time, which will be called Podcast You. And what that's going to do is I'll be taking you through the steps and the equipment and the stuff that we use here in the studio, and how you can get started for very little money in this wonderful world of internet broadcasting. I'm going to take you through all of that, and we're going to learn together. As most shows will teach you how to do it, we're going to learn together. So that'll be launching in September as well, and I'm going back to the airwaves to do some radio.
Grizzly Rock Radio coming back.
Grizzly Rock Radio is coming back to Naked 8 Productions, and right now the schedule looks like it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings. Classic rock shows. If you are an online DJ and you want to take part in Grizzly Rock Radio as an intern, we certainly would be happy to have you. That way I don't have to do it every night. And we'll teach you how to get on the air and play your own special brand of music. And we're hoping we're going to have some bands show up from time to time. We'll be playing all the classic rocks from the 80s, 70s, 60s, and you might even hear some 50s in there from time to time. What else is going on? Not too much other than that. We're just getting ready to put together our packages to go out for the new shows.
So we're trying to get you top-notch sponsors for Popcorn Lobby, and
you bet.
That means really great contests down the road. So.
And if you want to support our guest today, Mr. David Thomas, I would suggest that you go over to Facebook right now and say, I would like a poster, and I want those comics from the Infinites. Send me the Infinites. That's all you got to say is send me the Infinites.
I mean, you could get a package of 1 through 4 plus these wonderful posters we showed on the show.
You bet.
So, and we will make a drawing for that. So that contest starts right now.
Right now. So go over
to our Facebook page. That's Naked 8 Prod. Put it up.
Naked 8 Prod.
Naked 8 Prod.
Well, it's coming up. Give it a sec. It's slow today for some reason. There we go.
There it is. Okay, so go over to naked8prod.com. / between the pages, and you can win a full set up to this point.
Up to this point.
Of the Infinites, as well as some posters, and we're going to get Dave to sign them up
for you. You bet. And what else we got real quick? And when we hit 100 likes on Facebook, we are going to start the new contest for the Free Comic Book Day stuff. And as always, this is the end of our show. Stick around. We're going to do an after show, as we always do each and every week. We're just going to turn off the recording so nobody can hear us scream.
But those of you watching will.
Yeah, those of you watching will. So as always, we will see you
between the pages.